Has anyone ever, while performing, had an avocado fall on their head? Is that happened in past Farmhouse conferences? Because I have this feeling. What? Okay, so I feel like I'm going to be the first speaker to have that happen. So if something happens, just tell me to get out of the way. There's a line in This American Life that I like to adopt. I'm going to open with. It's just, I appreciate you all in advance for letting me talk here today. I was a very sensitive child. And when I say I was a sensitive child, I don't mean that I was scared of the vacuum cleaner that went around the bottom of our pool and ate up all the leaves, and if it accidentally grazed my leg, I would cry. And I don't mean that I was a sensitive child that as a young vegetarian, when a boy in my kindergarten class took a piece of lunch meat and put it on my sandwich, I refused to eat lunch in the cafeteria for a year. I mean, I was a sensitive child that I still remember being 8 years old, being in a store with my mom and hearing over the store radio the song Bohemian Rhapsody, and just hearing the lyric, "I don't want to die, sometimes wish I'd never been born at all," was so upsetting to me that I was blue for an entire afternoon. My poor parents had given birth to a healthy girl with 10 fingers, 10 toes, and zero ability to just deal. To just deal with life, to deal with all her emotions, just none. And being the good parents that they were constantly trying to construct rituals or ways to kind of help me deal. Which is why, for example, and I am not making this up, every night for an entire year before I went to bed, I would have to stand before one of my parents, raise my right hand and say out loud, "I promise not to have any bad dreams tonight because they're so silly." Why? Because I saw the movie Beetlejuice and it traumatized me, okay? But of all the things that my parents kind of came up with to help their sensitive child, the thing that actually helped the most was hearing my dad start a sentence with, "Erika, did I ever tell you about the time?" And I loved this. This meant that my dad was going to go into a story about something that had happened to him, and that he came out the other end, and everything was okay, and then hidden somewhere in that story was going to be a nugget, a takeaway, something that wasn't necessarily going to lighten the load for whatever it was I was going through. It was just going to help me carry it a little bit better. And that's why I became a storyteller. Not because I've lived this very adventurous, wild, exciting life. I have not. But because as I got older and started helping myself deal, when I would come out the other end and I figured out that takeaway, I had that nugget, I had that little thing, I thought there's probably someone else out there that needs to hear this. And that's really why I'm here today. I like making people feel better. And that's my goal from this entire talk, is just to make you feel better about the future. Now, before I came here today, there were two things I had to figure out how to deal with. The first was that I did not feel very qualified to talk about the future. I had no idea why I was invited here in the first place. I am not a tech person. I am not on the cutting edge of any technology. I am embarrassed to tell you what operating system my iPhone 4 is at right now because I refuse to update it. And I haven't invented, I'm not an inventor, I haven't come up with any new gizmo or anything. I can't figure out how to put a fitted sheet on my mattress the right way the first time. I'm serious. But what? It is a very difficult thing to do. So, but then I said to myself, Erika, you know, you're no less qualified than anybody else. It's the future. It hasn't happened yet. And then I felt better. The second thing I had to deal with was a little bit more difficult, and that was just thinking about my future itself. Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I kind of thought I'd be there by now. Relationship-wise, career-wise, whatever. There's certain things in my life that I kind of thought would have happened by now. And I was forced to kind of figure out, how do you think about a future that should have already taken place? How do you imagine something that you hope will happen that you also thought would have already happened by now? And maybe part of this whole introspection thing has to do with the fact that I just turned 31 this week. I just celebrated a birthday, and I think that's that's a time for a lot of people where you take out that measuring stick and you kind of see how far you've come in that year. And I'm sure some of you already know, turning 31 is far more anticlimactic than turning 30. If life is a roller coaster, right? Being a kid is like, oh my gosh, I'm just tall enough to do something. Being at the front of the line, is there anything more exciting when you're a kid than just being at the front of the line and like strapping yourself into something that's gonna go somewhere? Your teens and your 20s, that is the initial climb. You're like, wow, I'm going somewhere. I'm moving up in the world. Look at all that I can see from down here. And at some point in your late 20s, you realize, shit, this isn't going to last forever. At 29, you are peering over that drop. And 30, that's the descent. Everything after that, the loops, the bumps, the twists, whatever it is you're going through, it's never going to be as jarring because it's all carried by that momentum. Now, in real life, when I got off a roller coaster, you know, they sell those souvenir photos that are snapped at that really awkward moment on the ride. I am not someone who ever needs to look at them or needs to purchase them. The people who the photos look like this, or they have something like planned, they like did at the right time, that is never me. My photo always comes out looking like this. I am fighting it with everything I have. I can't stand the sensation of my stomach dropping. I don't like it. And over the years, as I've gotten older, just like with other things in life, I'm like, you know what? I'm into a lot of things. I'm not into that. You know what? No, I don't need to go on Splash Mountain. I'm going to ride over here. I'll see you when you come out the other side. No, I'm sure it's fun. I just don't need to do that. And it's funny, as everyone else here today has brought up famous quotes from books they read, and I'm going to quote my favorite movie, because that's me. There's a quote from my favorite movie of all time, which is Parenthood. And in the movie, Steve Martin and Mary Steenburgen, they play husband and wife, and they're having an argument. And the grandma walks in, and she says, "When I was 19, your grandfather took me on a roller coaster. Up, down, up, down. What a ride. You know, it was so amazing to me that something could be so scary, so frightening, so exciting, so sickening all at once." Some didn't like it. They went on the merry-go-round. But that just goes around. Nothing. I like the roller coaster. You get more out of it. And if I'm honest with myself and with you guys, I think part of the reason I've struggled to kind of think about my future, maybe part of the reason why I felt like I should be there right now, is because the last couple years, I've been on the merry-go-round. Heartbreak or career, whatever. I think I kind of looked at life and said, you know what? I'm going to go over here for a while. I'm going to call a timeout, and I'll see you when I'm ready. But over the last year, a shift has been taking place for me, and I feel like it's time for me to get back on. It all started about a year ago when I got a call from my sister with some very exciting news. She said, I get to take a +1 on this all-expense-paid vegan holistic Caribbean cruise. Do you want to come? Now, anybody else in their right mind would have said, I got the vacation days, I'm booking a flight now, yes, I'm in, end of story. But I'm not everybody else. I said, did you want to take your girlfriend? Are you sure? Did you ask mom? Does mom want to go? You know what? Let me sleep on it. You know, let me sleep on it. I'll get back to you. Let me think it over. I'll get back to you in the morning. Let me sleep on it. Because that is how I've made every major decision in my life from about the time I was 18. At 18, I decided to go to NYU. And when I got there, I wasn't very happy, which is kind of probably an understatement. Did I start looking for schools to transfer to? Did I start filling out transfer applications? No. I just thought about it and pondered it and thought about it some more until one day I woke up and I had graduated. A short time later, I felt like it was time for me to move to LA. And the moment I moved here and I got settled in, suddenly all of my childhood and high school friends moved to New York. Did I look for a job in New York? Did I look for an apartment in New York? No. I just thought about it. And I thought about it. And I thought about it some more. And this June, I will have been in LA for 8 years. What finally made me decide to say yes to going on this cruise was that I was in need of a new story. And I thought, where else was I going to find a good story but on a boat with 1,300 Birkenstock wearing, ponytail having, veggie loving, yoga doing people. And I can say this affectionately because I love yoga and I'm a vegetarian, so I can make fun of my own. And this was only confirmed when I got the itinerary for the cruise, which was full of the silliest sounding classes I'd ever heard of, like flower essences and a seminar called Straight Bowel Talk. I'm not making that up. Couldn't make it up if I tried. And then the menu, oh my God. I mean, I live in LA, but it was like vegan, gluten-free vegan, oil-free, gluten-free vegan, vegan as prescribed by your macrobiotic practitioner. And I looked at my sister and I said, if these people think that I'm eating miso soup for breakfast, I'm going to throw myself overboard. 2 days on the boat, and I am slurping up miso soup for breakfast like it is maple syrup on pancakes because I feel better than I have felt in years. And the classes that I was so ready to make fun of, there I was, 9 a.m. on the Lido deck, scooping up imaginary water to clear out my kidneys, I guess, in Qigong class. And even though I joked to my sister as we walked into the Straight Bowel Talk seminar that it was probably going to be a load of crap, it was riveting, it was fascinating, and the people that I was ready to make fun of were just lovely, kale-loving people. And the weather was wonderful, and the view from our room was wonderful, and the ports were wonderful, and the service was wonderful, which meant that I had no story. So one night, my sister says to me, hey, let's kill some time before the vegan ice cream social. And, let's go to the casino. And I said, fine. Because I am not now, nor have I ever been, I'm not lucky at cards. I never win big when I gamble, but I was like, fine, let's just go. And we sit down at the blackjack table. And I'm sandwiched between my sister and an older gentleman. And the dealer starts dealing out the cards. And wouldn't you know it, as usual, I get dealt a 15. And I can see the dealer has an 8 showing, which means I've got a decision to make. And I look at the guy next to me, and I'm like, what do I do? And he says, well, if you're playing by the book, you've got to assume that the dealer's got a 10 under there. That he's got 18, and in order to beat that, you're going to have to hit. And I start pondering, oh, but if I hit, I could go over. Oh, but do I go by the book? And finally I just go, no, I'll stay. And my sister, because she's always looking at cards, is a good hand, so she stays. Dealer flips over his cards. He's got 14. He's got a hit. Deals out the next card. He gets a 7. 21, blackjack. There goes my $5 chip. And as the dealer scooped up the cards, my mind started going to that spiral of, Erika, see, this is why people play by the book. Oh, maybe if you would have sat at another table, you would have been lucky. Oh, maybe then. And I noticed something. There aren't very many other instances in life, other than blackjack, where you can see the immediate result of the decision you didn't make. Right? So, if I had taken that hit like I was supposed to, if I had taken that 7, I would have had 22. I would have gone bust. No matter what I did that hand, I was going to lose. And this hit me so hard. For my entire 20s, I berated myself, I second-guessed myself, I made myself crazy. And maybe at those crossroads in my life where I invited everybody I knew to weigh in, I slept on it, I perseverated, maybe no matter what I did, I was just going to push. I was just going to go bust. Maybe it just wasn't in the cards for me. My great-grandma Elizabeth, who I'm actually named after, my dad said that she used to say that the best way to never make a mistake is to stay home and do nothing. And every decision you make in life in its own way is a bit of a gamble. But sitting there in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean with some Romanian blackjack dealer, I finally laid to rest every decision I had made in my 20s. I'd like to tell you that after I had that major revelation, I then went on to finally win really big in the casino. But no, I'm still not lucky at cards. I lost all the money I started with. But to be able to make that peace with myself it was worth the price of admission. So great. Now I had made peace with those decisions, and now it's time for me to really face where those decisions or the paralysis and not being able to make a decision, where that brought me. And when I finally took a look around and I surveyed the land, I got this really sinking feeling that I was behind in life. But how could I know for sure? I mean, if only there was a place where I could see how I measured up with everybody else I had ever met in my entire life. Luckily, that place does exist. It's called Facebook. Now, I like to say that Facebook is created for people who always assumed that everybody else was off somewhere having a much better time but never had any proof. But it's also... My ride's here, I gotta go. But it's also a really great way to compare yourself. And I think it is really important in this day and age with technology and things being, our perception of time being completely warped, that it's important to take a moment every year and kind of see where that year brought you. Because when with technology in the mix, yes, time is relative, but forever can feel like the amount of time, the 30-second ad you have to watch for a 3-minute YouTube video. Forever is that feeling of trying to download an attachment when you're getting really shitty Wi-Fi. So it's really, really easy to forget that when you're in the middle of a part of your life that feels shitty, that it's just gonna go on forever. Now, I finally took a step back around this point in my life, and I noticed something. I was comparing my timeline on Facebook with someone else's, but if I were to really stretch it out and not just look at it on the page, if I was to extend that timeline well into the future, it's kind of too soon to tell whether that person is ahead or I'm behind. It's too early in the game. And so I think because we've been living this very voyeuristic life for the last 8 or 9 years, it's very easy to forget that you're seeing what looks like somebody's happily ever after, when really it's just one page in one chapter. And suddenly I found myself, like clicking through like you do someone's wedding album, and instead of being like, oh, I'm behind in life, and I didn't make the right decisions, I could see it for what it really was, a beautiful first wedding. It doesn't mean it's going to be their last. And I started applying this to other things in my life. I'd go on a date with a guy and he seemed nice and charming, but is he going to be the next Mr. Erika Adickman? I don't know. Too soon to tell. Politicians want to know if I'm better off now than I was 4 years ago? I don't know. Too soon to tell. And I don't know what it is about experience and time and age where all of a sudden the things your parents told you 100 times over finally start to sink in. But I finally got what my dad was saying. He used to tell me all the time. He used to say, Erika, life is like playing golf. You're really only playing against your personal best. And I think it's really easy to forget that the game is so far from over. We're not even on the back 9 yet. And my mom used to tell me, Erika, you're the kind of person, you just need to flip ahead. You like to read the last page first, just constantly flipping ahead. And I don't think that's true for me anymore. I just think when you're in the middle of a really bad chapter, you just want to know how many pages are left. But there's no knowing that. The only comfort we have really comes from knowing that none of us, not even the person who seems to have their shit the most together, really knows for certain what's around the corner. It's too soon to tell. Like I said, my whole goal is to try and make you feel better. So in putting this whole thing together, I surveyed everybody in my inner orbit, and I said to each of them, I said, what could I tell you? If I had a crystal ball, what could I tell you about the future that would make you feel better? And each of them wanted something slightly different, but it was all kind of a variation on a similar theme. They all just wanted to know that it was all going to eventually work out. And I don't know any of you or what your personal hopes and dreams or goals are for the future or what's kind of like in limbo for you right now, but I'll just say to you that it's all going to eventually work out. Probably. If you expected me to give you any sort of guarantee, the speech would end with how to buy a copy of my book, okay? But I will tell you that even though I can't tell you for certain that it's all going to happen, it's all going to work itself out, I would never be so arrogant as to tell you that it's never going to happen. Nobody knows anything with that amount of certainty. There are a lot of things in my life that I never thought would happen. I never thought I'd live in Los Angeles. Up until a couple months ago, I never thought I'd be speaking here. One of the people who I surveyed when I was talking about the future, talking about like really scraping the bottom of the barrel, I even asked my 22-year-old younger brother, who, speaking of things that I never thought would happen, I never thought he would be my temporary roommate, but here we are. And I said to him, I was like, Blake, you know, what do you think about the future? He said, no. And I said, well, do you think about like being 30? And he said, I have all of 30 to worry about being 30. I only have a limited amount of time to be 22. I have all of 30 to worry about that. I said, huh? So you don't think about the future at all? He said, oh, I mean, I think like I'm downloading Die Hard right now, and then I think I'm going to watch Die Hard later. And that's about as far as I get. And I started going into my whole spiel of like, oh, but I'm this age, and I thought certain things would happen by now, and I don't know what to do, and blah, blah. And I said, I don't know what to do. What do I do? What do I do now? And my brother looked at me and he said, now we watch Die Hard. And I don't think he meant it in the Zen way that it kind of came out. Because, one, this is a boy who in my apartment tried to make popcorn in a frying pan. But it really stuck with me. That's really all that we can do. Just do the thing that is right in front of us right now with our full attention. You know, sit down at that computer and look at the blank screen again. Go on that 100th eHarmony date. Book that vacation. Call back that HR person. And the next thing you know, you're back at the front of the line, ready to get back on the roller coaster. So now I was ready to finally think about the future. What do I want for it? I want a lot of things. I want to be a backup dancer on tour for Beyonce. I want to go to Iceland. I want a career that's fulfilling. I want to be able to put a fitted sheet on a mattress the right way the first time. I want a lot of things. But most importantly, I want to be able to go from this to this. So that's because I can't control the forces of the universe. I can't control everything that lays ahead of me. I sometimes can't even control how I feel about it. But I can control how I deal with it. And that's my story, and I hope it made you feel better. And if I didn't tell you anything you don't already know, and life has kind of worked out right on schedule for you, then my only hope is that the next time that you're gritting your teeth and your stomach is in knots and you are feeling like your world is turned upside down, you'll pause for a moment. You'll think of me, and you'll enjoy the ride. Thank you.